Studio Galaxy 473 in Confero. Welcome to our program today, and we apologize for a little lateness. Welcome to our program, and the number to call is always 410-3030. We provoke discussion on this program, and we welcome your interaction, your participation, and your suggestion. And today the topic we're speaking on is, what is the recovery plan post Beryl? What is the agricultural recovery plan post Hurricane Beryl? Small countries like us in the Caribbean are prone to hurricane, very strong weather conditions. Sometimes we have other climatic activity that seriously affect our agricultural product. And we have to be prepared to react. We have to be prepared to react quickly. And our people must know what is the recovery plan. We are worried. And we ask the question, what is the agricultural recovery plan post-Beryl? And with us today in the studio is Joshua and no other than BG. Two individuals that have been around agriculture long enough and qualified to ask the question, what is the agricultural recovery plan post-Beryl? Joshua.
Good morning to everyone, both at home, diaspora, worldwide. This morning, it's important that we attack this issue in a systematic way. We've had the immediate response by government and civil society to Beryl. And the response has been good. It hasn't been perfect, but it hasn't been, bad. At times, people and government have been overwhelmed with the scale of the destruction that has happened. The immediate concern was saving lives and feeding people, getting some shelter for people. The farmers who lost their livelihood, one of the response was to give some income support, which was very much welcome, and it's like a euphoria moment, and farmers getting the support are very happy, but the support is an income support. It's not a recovery plan that small financial support is destined for. Now, I'm hearing conflation going on where people are saying, oh, well, the money should be used for planting and this and that. Well, if you use the money for planting, how are they going to pay their little bills for Grenada? How are they going to buy their food, etc.? They have no income. The plan was this would be an income support for farmers, but what we do is we give a little dollar and we expect that dollar to cover everything, and it can't. And that's why it's important that that we make sure that we're clear about how we're coming out of this situation. It's very important. We've started talking about celebrating farmers' achievement, and that is good and well, and we need to do that. It's long overdue in terms of acknowledgement of farmers. But we also have to do the good work whilst we, celebrating. We have to have plans in place, technical plans. They have to be written up. They have to be well researched, and they have to be known to the populace as a whole. So it's all well and good we celebrate, farmers this and farmers that. Like I said, long overdue. But we have to work in a way that we do the nice little bits, but we do the hard bits as well. We need to look at, after 50 years, getting a proper data collection system in place so we can have good management information to make good decisions. And as Mr. Pierre often says, we don't have all the answers, but we may have a few. It's only through discussions and sharing views that we can move forward. So I'm very concerned that I want to make sure this doesn't happen, that the income support is given and then the industry is forgotten. The industry has to have a recovery plan. It has to have a long term plan. And last week in conversation with BJ, in my mind is that we have to have a 50-year plan for agriculture, and we have to break it down in 3 yearly sections, or even less, and review it yearly. But we must, you know, have a plan how we're going to recover agriculture better. So I'm looking forward to talking with BJ as per usual, Mr. Pierre, and see how we do that, because the agricultural plan is not just one little subsector like poultry. I like to talk about poultry or bees. It encompasses everything, including finance. So, BJ, your thoughts?
My thoughts in relation to rebuilding the agriculture sector after Beryl is that first we need a definitive plan as to how we're going to do it. That's the first thing. And it's not difficult to formulate a plan because we can do our situational analysis fairly easy. Grenada is a small place, and the farmers are reachable, and you have the systems in place, the structures. You have extension officers, you have the Ministry of Agriculture, should be spearheading that operation. And then after you do that, Joshua, then you, with the limited resources that you are talking about that you have, you need to make maximum use of that. And I'm in total agreement with you that this bit of handout that the government is giving is not sufficient and it's not being handled in a sensible way. People who don't really deserve the money are the one you see actually getting those money. So you know that it's political distribution. And when you're distributing monies like that, you don't get the expected result because the money tend to go in the wrong place. I have the notion that when you have those kind of issues, you get the technocrats to handle those things rather than the politicians.
Okay.
Um, in relation to getting back our tree crops like our sauersup and our cocoa and stuff like that, that is long term or medium term, depends on how you look at it. And that require capital, not in such a way, not that you just make a one-off payment. You need carrying capital, Joshua. Carrying capital is the right name for the thing. In a lot of budget, you see carrying capital as a heading.
Okay. And
Because
just
because
remind
those are
us
money.
what carrying capital is again.
Carrying capital, Joshua, is the money that you make available for a particular crop while the crop is in the process of growing. For example, cocoa may take 3 to 5 years to really get cocoa from a cocoa field when it's planted. Within that time, what the farmer do? He gonna need carrying capital. He may try to interplant some crops here or there to keep things going, but that wouldn't keep him, you don't understand, and his family alive. Because remember, the land space is being taken up with a particular crop now, and as every year that passes, the space diminish. It gets smaller and smaller because the trees get bigger and bigger. And therefore, you need to ensure that while the farmer is doing those things, while he's trying to develop a sector, because the sector is trying to develop, particular industry trying to develop, while he's doing that, you have to ensure that it's not under added stress, not under too much of psychological and financial stress that he cannot produce. So
Mm-hmm.
you basically try to assist him in such a way that you make life a lot easier for him. So you don't make farming becomes something that is extremely tedious work in the field.
Yeah.
And then when you go to sleep in the night, it's extremely tedious mental work because you doesn't know where the next dollar is coming from.
Yeah.
You can't really function like that,
Yeah,
Joshua.
because Mr. Pierre a few weeks back, maybe about a month, was talking about the farmer has joined the working poor or the vulnerable. So the farmer is now part of the vulnerable group. And therefore, how do you make provision for them? How do you ask them to rebuild back the farming community or the agriculture industry? And they don't have bread and water.
And not just that, Joshua, the farmers didn't have much, most of them don't have large quantities of reserve money.
Hmm.
We don't have, seriously huge farmers in Grenada.
Hmm.
And the vegetable farmers may tend to do better than the tree crop farmers and those
Hmm.
kind of things because of the quick rate of turnover and those things and
Yeah,
the
the
value
kind
of
of
those
paycheck
crops, right?
farmers.
Therefore, you need to look up, after those people who doing tree crops and stuff in a different way. You couldn't look after them as in the way you're dealing with the vegetable farmers.
Hmm.
And in your plan, you need to take that into consideration as
Yeah.
to how you're dealing with people based on the, socioeconomic background and
Hmm.
the financial background and the
Hmm.
social background. All of those things you have to take into consideration. You
Yeah.
know what is changed, Joshua? Um, Much of our country was not damaged by Beryl. It was only basically the north to a certain extent, and Carrico. And we are struggling to get that small bit in Adam. What happened if the entire country had
Yeah.
damage? We had serious problems. And I'm saying
Yeah.
that we need to, look after our country in a more formidable way, in a more sustainable way.
Hmm.
Joshua, when you're building back, you need to be resilient. You need to build back better
Hmm.
in vulnerable areas than you
Hmm.
had done before.
Yeah.
And by giving somebody $4,000 and say, go ahead and go and do this thing, aren't you find that song like mad people thing?
That
It
was
is song
income
like
support. In all fairness, the government said it was income support. So it was not support targeting
agriculture.
agriculture.
Also.
It was support targeting the immediate income.
Yeah.
The
So
farmer to pay his bills
his
and
selfish
Christmas
money.
coming and yeah,
Hmm.
basically income.
Yeah.
So now the question we have to ask is, do we have a recovery plan?
Hmm. Well, I think we haven't seen one as yet, and I think people like BJ, who has good ideas, yourself, and many others who have ideas but they don't speak. I think this is the time for all of us to be speaking, because one of the things I remember sitting in this very studio and discussing was that we need to formulate a new model how we will make farmers, sustainable farmers, because one of the models that I think you, Mr. Pierre, had talked about was that we have to have immediate kind of income crops. We have to have medium terms crops. And we talked about lettuce, we talked about cucumber, and we talked about cocoa, we talked about soursop, etc. So the thinking and the model has to be different. And I would like to see whoever's doing these models, start showing them. Obviously, there is sometimes a confusion who's supposed to do it. These are kind of national development projects. So often we look to the ministry in terms of the models for doing those things. It's very important. I was listening to the narrative the other day, and the prime minister was on there. And one of the first questions he got from Callistra was that the opposition is talking about corruption. And they looked at each other, and he smiled and he said, "The opposition talking about corruption?" And it was supposed to be a joke in terms of those who are aware of the kind of political system. I'm not always fully aware. But he talked about we have to build back agriculture. And one of the things that he said was that they're determined to develop the poultry industry and they're doing everything they can to make sure they review the agreement with Caribbean Agro. And I suspect there's a big meeting with Caribbean Agro and the government of Grenada coming up in days. So, um, and they are really looking to make that agreement work. The second thing that he said was that we have to use our experience and look what happened. He said, if you look at the shade houses and the greenhouses, they stood up fairly well. And we need to, when we're building back, take these things into consideration. What will withstand a hurricane? When the hurricane bad, nothing can withstand it, to be quite honest. But depending on the category, we can try and build back better. So it's very important. So, and I was thinking, what do we do? Our farmers tend to have about 2 or 3 acres. If some are lucky, 5. If some are very very lucky, 10 acres, etc. What do we do? How do we do the model? Do we have livestock in terms of with the tree crop farmers? Do we have a mixture? What do we know? Because I remember being in a lecture once, and the lecturer, a young Grenadian young lady, she was saying, we do this monocrop, and the monocrop depletes our soil. We need to do like our forefathers used to do, intercrop different crops, because it replenishes the soil. So if we are gonna do that and we're looking at sustainability and long term and living something for our children, then the knowledge really has to be pushed out and it has to be more common. So all of us know what we're doing. We know we have an issue with irrigation, and I think almost anybody who's involved in planning in agriculture knows the importance of irrigation, for agriculture now. So we have so much to consider, from, cash crop, tree crops, livestock, etc. How do we, you know, build back better after Beryl? Because we have to.
I think we have to consider two things, just to put things in perspective. The people who affected the most on a hurricane is our tree crop farmers. Nutmeg, cocoa, sauce-up, tree crop. Livestock get hit to an other crop.
Yeah,
The people who is crying out the most now
yeah,
is the nutmeg, cocoa, sauce-up farmers.
yeah.
And BJ, we must never forget government is the biggest farmer, the Ministry of Agriculture. So in terms of building back, no matter what we do, we will lean on the government. For instance, we have the utility boats, and so far they have shut them out. They say nothing. But what is their plan for nutmeg? What is their plan for cocoa? What is the government plan for the government estate, and to use it as a model for other farmers to follow?
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
Any thoughts, BJ, in terms of what we could do with nutmeg or cocoa? Because, I mean, nutmeg and cocoa and Grenada being the Isle of Spice are synonymous and romantic kind of things that we put together. Again, that's from Mr. Pierre. You know,
Joshua,
what can we do? A man has 50 acres of nutmeg,
Joshua,
all down on the ground. What could we do?
Joshua, those things aren't difficult. They only look difficult, or they only sound difficult. Let me give you an example. If you ask the government over the next 24 months, or even the Nutmeg Association, how many acres on nutmeg do you want us to plant back? None of them can say.
Oh, God.
They don't have a clue.
Mhm, mhm.
But they would tell you we want to grow back nutmegs in that kind of mad kind of
Yeah, yeah,
manner.
yeah.
Joshua, that's not the way you go about life. You want to plant back 300 acres of nutmeg.
Mhm,
You identify the areas. You identify the farmers. You decide where you're getting the planting materials from. And Joshua, you find the resources to do it.
mhm.
How hard is that? It
Yeah,
isn't. But
yeah.
when you would say, you see, that's not my business, that's not my land, and the farmer's going to have to go back and plant his nutmeg for himself,
Mhm.
him, short of resources, he have limited resources, he cannot employ the right amount of people. Even sometimes the technical knowledge, he doesn't even have it to, able to plan back better.
Mhm.
But you tell him, go and do it. You
Yeah.
don't make monies available for him. You tell him what, you put $25 million in GDP, and he can go and borrow if he want. We renting the land, he doesn't have a title for it. You understand
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
We
yeah,
finding the security to go and borrow those kind of money. Him 60 years old. Anybody gonna lend you a substantial amount of money at that age? The point I'm making, Joshua, is that the system, the structures, they are not in place to aid with proper functional development, with sustainable development. Resources is one of the pillar in terms of developing properly. Where
Mhm,
are the resources?
mhm,
If government are the biggest farmer according to Mr. Pierre, and that's true, they are the one that need to set the farming policy,
mhm.
not by themselves, but together with farmers,
Yeah.
and to identify monies these days to
Mhm,
assist farmers. I don't think it's too difficult a task if
mhm,
you have the right projects,
mhm.
the right programs in place. You should be able to target and get money, you
Mhm.
know, else outside of Grenada to do those things.
Yeah.
So here you are, Joshua. Listen to the logics. You get $118 million,
Mhm.
more or less, to resuscitate your country, to develop it back, not just agriculturally, you know, infrastructurally and otherwise. Joshua, these are money that you insure against futuristic issues that you may have. You're paying that money every month or
Mhm.
every year, whatever.
Mhm.
Now you have an issue and you have your productive sector being damaged.
Mhm.
The money you collect from the insurance company is not your money. That's
Mhm.
the people's money.
Mhm.
And you take that money as a government now and you stash it somewhere and you tell the same people who had insured the country, go back and borrow that money. You either stupid or I don't want to call people stupid on the radio, you're delusional.
Mhm.
Something to right with your head.
Yeah.
Joshua, you're not thinking properly. I
Yeah.
can see that you get money outside or some soft loan, or
Mhm.
somebody donate you some money and say
Yeah.
something, let me just put that money so we can have it as a revolving fund, so people who borrow can pay back, so other people can get it in the future to continue developing a sector. That's not the case, Joshua. Those are monies that you insure for futuristic issues. Now you have the issues, you still take the money and you put it outside there and you say, out of the reach of the people who need those monies. And you're talking about development. You can't develop that way, Joshua.
Yeah.
You,
It was interesting listening to you. Sorry, Mr. Pierre, you wanted to say something. Let me just finish. Because I'm just going to reiterate what you said, essentially. And it was so simple, so clear, and so systematic that maybe it's too simple and too easy to follow. Because, as you said, if you want to plan back 500 acres of cocoa, you identify it,
Mm-hmm.
you identify the cost,
Mm-hmm.
you identify the area,
And you decide where the
and
money coming from,
yeah,
and you
and
go ahead and do it. You
y-
have logistics at your disposal.
yeah,
You have, is it Bulong where they
hmm,
do the plants,
hmm,
and you have Maryville where
hmm,
they do the plants. You have
yeah,
Ashendene where they do plants. So you have those things that you.
hmm,
And I heard the minister earlier on this year. Minister Andrews was saying, how are we going to build a tissue culture lab in Maryville? Or it'll start in June gone. I
hmm,
haven't seen that constructed yet. But if you seriously want to develop your agriculture
hmm,
sector, this is something that you would have to do. You would
Yeah.
have to think about a tissue culture lab in
Yeah.
Grenada.
And the second thing you were saying, which is important, and it's close to my heart, because quite often you hear the politician talking about corruption of resources or money, etc. And quite often it's not necessarily how it sounds. But this seems to be like a political football they use against each other. Quite often we have shortage of resources, money. And the second thing that we have is a mismanagement, as BJ was indicating there. You know, you have resources that's designed to be frontline to help, people get through the disaster, and then you put a wall in front of it, so they know the money is there but they can't reach it. And so it's like a double jeopardy. And where does that come from? It's almost, to me, it's like we don't trust our own, so we're not giving them money. We don't want them to have an easy recovery. We want to make it as hard as possible. I've detected that in the culture, and I hope that is not happening. And I hope people listen to what BJ is saying. If we are going to redevelop and build back better, the resources have to be made available to those who are doing the real rebuilding, as well as the support systems that they need in place. He talked about the various places where, they're propagating cocoa. It doesn't have to be cocoa, it could be soursop, etc. But what he's saying is that once you decide on your goal and the support services you need, you get on with it, and the finance. And I estimate in terms of, I'm not no big time accountant, but I estimate if we want to get agriculture back, we need about $500 million. I estimate we might have about 20,000 farmers around. But each farmer getting, maybe a couple 100,000 using new technology, shade house, irrigation, etc. It's just something, a ballpark figure that I have. It might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but I mean, that's what I plucked out from my head. If we're serious about sustainable food security, building back better, we've used so much resources in the south of the island to to build hotels, etc., where the return on investment is negligible. Why don't we do something different and invest in agriculture now? Why doesn't the whole focus of the island turn to investment in terms of agriculture as the way forward, as the way to invest in our people? Those are my thoughts, listening to BJ. But I know, Mr. Pierre, I jumped in front of you, so go ahead.
Nice, interesting question. Who is involved in the tourist belt? Who is involved in the agriculture belt? The people who lobbying for agriculture is a joke. And the people who lobbying for tourism have clout. It's as simple. We had a hurricane pass. The crops the farmers that were affected the most and the farmers that would take the longest to recover are the tree crop farmers. Soursop is 3 years, BJ? 3 years and 18 months, 3 years.
Yeah.
Cocoa is about 5-6 years. Nutmeg is about 10 years. Now you have the government of Grenada is the biggest farmer. They have the most resources. They have the most technical support.
Yep.
And they can harness international assistance. Whether it's from CARI, ICA, the University of the West Indies, the Chinese, the Russians, the Taiwanese. The government could do it.
Yeah.
We have to determine if we are going back in cocoa and nutmeg, some husbandry practices must evolve.
Yeah.
And we have to sit down and tell the farmers what are the best practice
Yeah.
that they must do to plant nutmeg. Do you continue to plant nutmeg the way you're doing it? No. What is the minimum distance? What is the height we're working for our nutmeg trees.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do that. Otherwise, the farmers should stay away from nutmeg.
Yeah.
And the government of Grenada farms. Government have about 3-4 estates. Bellevue, Granby
Granby.
Estate,
Mm-hmm.
Montreux, and some other areas.
Mm-hmm.
You have to determine that your estate have to be a model.
Yeah.
If you don't want to give the people the money you take and put in the bank, then you use the money on your farm and show the people a model.
Yeah.
But if the government doesn't seem to know what to do. They don't know what to do. The Nutmeg Association don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
The Cocoa Association was. Where are you going, BJ?
Yeah, but it's true that the government estates and most of the farms are in need of mechanization. I mean, one of the things that we were waiting on and still waiting on, we had a big agricom project, 27 million. We had been promised 2 modern tractors were going to be bought with some
Cocoa and nutmeg?
with some of that money to help farmers plow, etc. But the project I think is more or less finished now, and those tractors never materialized.
Project finish, the money finish.
Yeah, but having said that, and I know we're smiling, but it's really very, very serious business, because what we're doing is that we're creating the poverty trap if we don't fix these problems. And one of the things that's often on my mind, it's who's responsible, and the answers come back to me. All of us are
The
responsible.
government responsible.
All
The
of us.
Nutmeg Association responsible. The cocoa responsible. And the farmers.
Yeah,
Joshua, you're sounding like
We can't cheat.
you're sounding like you grew up in the back of the church. Yeah.
well, my grandmother used to send me to
Yeah, man,
church.
I could tell you know. I could tell.
And the church was just down the road there. It was
you don't blame anyone. You blame everybody. Sure. They are leaders,
Yeah.
And those are the people for us that needs to be blamed for certain things when they are not going right. And to fix that problem, it starts with the people at the top. It starts with the policymakers. It starts with the government. They are the one that can source, the finance that are necessary to do what is required to fix that problem. Joshua, whether we want to face it or not, we are different from other countries, like developed countries.
Yeah, we
in
are.
terms of how they deal with the agriculture. Government would have to take the lead in doing certain things. If they're relying on the farmers to go sourcing money to get things and make things happen, it's gonna take too long, Joshua. And you want to fix that every year that passes or every month that passes is a month and you didn't do anything. It's a month behind time,
Yeah.
It's a month that you're delayed by, and you live in a competitive world. Jamaica is planting quite a bit of nutmegs, so is St. Vincent, and so is places like India, and
Oh yeah.
they are basically going full speed ahead,
Yeah.
and we basically we're regressing, and we need to check ourselves, or else the things that we had right before our very eyes can dissipate very, very, very rapidly.
Because one of the things that I read was that India is actually growing maize. I remember there used to be a joke in Grenada many years ago. They had a consultant from England, and mace was maybe $5 a pound, and nutmeg was $3 a pound, and he was telling them, grow more mace. Everybody used to laugh, and then maybe about 5-6 years ago, I thought, oh, India is growing maize.
The world is like, Joshua. This is the way the world is. The world keep evolving.
Yeah.
And we have to do things differently. And politicians cannot shy away from their responsibility.
And they
I'm
shouldn't.
not beating up on politicians, Joshua. Sometimes I think they know better. The point I'm making is you have a system that is failing us, and Mr. Pierre keep talking about it all the time.
Yeah.
The system is failing us. The way we keep doing things, we're not getting the expected result, and we keep doing it in a similar manner. What do we expect?
Yeah, but they say that's the sign of madness. But
Hmm.
it's not necessary. It's, it's not necessary beating up on anybody, because what I heard you say this morning was the solutions.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we expect the solution to be had by leaders. And I don't think often that is the case from what I see and what I hear. So that's why I say we all part of the solution and all part of the problem. So the solutions you were giving a while ago, I think, it's very pertinent that people hear that, people can contribute their ideas as well, because I know there are fundamental problem in terms of nutmeg, and nutmeg farmers tell me I buy nutmeg plant. I don't know if it's a man, I don't know if it's a woman,
You have to wait for
and they're
many
selling
years.
it for me.
But at this stage now,
Mhm,
the elderly farmers, some of them claim that they know the difference. Okay?
they
I'm
do.
not taking issue with that. You have the university graduates.
Mhm,
Does the expert know the difference? Could
Um,
we test a plant and know the difference?
Joshua, the days when people use nutmeg seeds to cultivate nutmeg
It's over.
is long outdated.
mhm.
You take the branch from a female tree and
It
you grow
must
it.
be a female.
It must be a
It
female.
can't be
It
no
can't be a
transgender.
male. So those days are outdated. You have something they call marcotting.
Mhm,
You look for a good bearing tree with good qualities,
mhm,
and you marcot the tree. You take plants from the tree
mhm.
and you multiply it. You propagate it.
Uh-huh.
This is not a difficult thing. So
Mhm,
the days where people planting 3, 4 nutmeg tree, close space, and you wait for them to declare
That's
5, 7 years.
nonsense.
That's
5, 7
outdated.
years
That's
wasted.
outdated.
Yeah,
Outdated.
yeah. But one of the things I want to expand on that you said, and what you said is that the world is moving and moving forward. And even if you were doing 10 tons of something a year, and you're still doing 10 tons, you're actually moving behind, because your competitors who are doing 10 tons are now doing 15 tons, whereas you're still doing 10
You're
tons.
not doing 10, you're doing 8, Joshua.
Yeah.
You're regressing.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the nutmeg? Shouldn't we be having exact or some strong advice from Nutmeg Association what farmers should do in terms of husbandry practices? You
Yes.
going back in nutmeg, not we going back in nutmeg, we marketing,
Mhm,
we producing marketing plants,
mhm,
we know what type of variety we planting.
mhm.
This is the distance we want you to plant. We're going to prune the nutmeg at a certain height. How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be getting serious,
Yeah.
practical, logical
Yeah.
suggestions
Yeah.
from
So that's the nutmeg plan that we need.
Well, Joshua, think about it that way. The Nutmeg Association cannot tell you how many acres that was damaged from Beryl. They
Mm,
cannot tell you the shortfall in terms of production what we might be having due to the effect of Beryl.
mhm.
What make you think they're gonna come up with a plan to tell you how many acres we need to plant back? And because they don't know, Joshua.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joshua, they should be telling you by now, 4 months after the hurricane, we lose 200 acres. We're going to take us 3 years to plant back that 200
Mhm.
acres. Year one, this is what we're planting back. Year two, this is what we're planting back. Year three, this is what we're planting back.
Yeah. So, Senator Sinclair, I hope you're listening, because I will be on the phone to you today, tomorrow, in terms of answering these questions that being posed, because Senator of Agriculture, have to kind of answer this question, because
Joshua, you
you're
know
also in
something?
charge of GCNA, I think you are.
Joshua, people who don't have money tend to remain silent. The Nutmeg Association, they, in terms of cash, liquid cash, they broke.
They're broke, but they
Yeah,
have
but they have
assets.
assets.
Yeah,
But sometimes you can have whole heap of assets and don't even know how to get money.
yeah, yeah.
The point I'm making, there are people who monies aren't good for. And I think the Nutmeg Association and the Cocoa
yeah,
Association, money don't seem to be good for
money no
them.
good.
When they have money, they're stupid. You don't understand. And I have the opinion, Joshua, that by now they should at least have a plan
Yeah.
as to how they're resuscitating, how they're rehabilitating the nutmeg sector. So Cocoa should have a plan.
Yeah, yeah.
And you work with those plans, and those people should be the one that's spearheading the operation, not the government.
Yeah.
The government can contribute and
They can
basically
coordinate.
coordinate the whole
Mhm.
stuff. But those people and those associations, as far as they're concerned, once they can pay their wages and salary at the end of the month, they're
That
okay.
that
And
is
next month again, they do the same thing, and
yeah.
they're okay.
That's the
Some
goal,
people are they live like that.
not development.
No, they don't think about
Yeah,
future development. They don't think about sustainable development.
yeah,
They react.
yeah,
We
yeah,
don't have a plan. Shouldn't the Nutmeg Association have $2 billion in reserve somewhere in some bank or somewhere? The
yeah.
quantity of money that passes through their hand and the business that they involve in, they should have $2-3 billion stuck up somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. So just to go back to Beryl and building back after Beryl, the agricultural sector. Based on what I'm hearing, what you're saying is each sector or subsector should have a comprehensive plan in terms of how to build back and the costing of that plan, as well as the logistics that they will need and way to get it. And if we manage to get each subsector to do that, we have the basis of a recovery plan. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Joshua, just now, a while ago, what you said that you need about $500 million to
Yeah,
put in the agriculture
yeah. On
sector.
the top of my head.
Yes, and that's okay. Even that's a lot of money to develop the agriculture sector.
Mm-hmm.
You probably need initially what? Maybe for the first 12 months or so, you probably need $50 million probably
Mm-hmm.
to inject into the sector.
Mm-hmm.
But you put it in areas that can have maximum impact.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
For example, your banana industry.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua, we have to import bananas, all the way from Santo
Yeah, yeah,
Domingo.
yeah,
Yeah, and you couldn't even find in
yeah,
the region.
yeah.
And I think about a place like Grenada. We shouldn't be importing bananas. The money goes outside the Joshua.
Yeah, yeah,
You have to pay duties on the banana when they come in from those
yeah.
places, because they're not CARICOM. Joshua, shouldn't we capitalize on that sector and say, hang on, something? In 9 months, you can get that's less than a year. You can
Yeah.
get production in full effect. Couldn't we bring in 100,000 tissue culture banana plants from somewhere? Target some specific farm, whether it be government farm or specific, farms that you can do large scale production and get the banana sector up and about.
Right.
How hard it is to do that?
Government Ramdani Nayak.
Mm-hmm.
All of them have forests, they have hundreds of acre land, and the government take the lead.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you target those people and them and say, hang on. And you gradually, get them involved and say, hang on, we want you to contribute not just the land, but as part of the resources, for doing those. And government can get back, recover the expenses, back.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm
So
hearing.
you have, listen, man, not only in the construction sector and the financial sector, other than agriculture, government can have public-private partnership, in the agriculture sector too.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to think agriculture is a foreign business, and we don't put in no money in that because we're not going to recover it. If you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to recover it.
Right.
But if you have the right people and you choose, to implement the right plan, I have no doubt you can recover back your expenses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what I was hearing you saying is that we have each sector, so subsector, has a plan. And then you get a strategy in terms of what will give you the greatest return on your investment in the shortest period of time. So you then start to prioritize what you're going to spend your bucks on immediately, and then you're going to have a secondary kind of lot that you will then be financing, and so forth and so forth. So you're working in a systematic way, but that systematic way has to be coordinated, because what we're doing is building back a national agriculture system again. And it seems to me, listening to you, it's clear, it's not rocket science, and we need to kind of get ourselves together. And again, the difficulty is government has to take the lead in these things. And it could easily be a public private partnership, as is being suggested. But the idea is here. Everything that we do in life, we first think about it. Before they went to the moon, they were thinking about going to the moon for years and years. Now, we are talking about how to rebuild back an agriculture industry. We need to act upon it. We need to start seeing the structures being put in place so that, it's not just talk. We are going to build back better after Beryl.
Perhaps
The, go on, Mr. Pierre.
Perhaps we have to start to tell government, you responsible to start the process. Why we say that? You have the land, you have the technical support, you have access to the universities and the institutions faster than any farmer. You have access to CADI and ICA. That is people, consultants you have on the ground. You have it all.
Yeah.
The farmers have to go and beg for it.
The
But the
Chinese
government have it. You have the Chinese here. The government have it all. Sometimes, as in this small tribal politics, we shade and back. So the Ministry of Agriculture is the biggest farmer.
Yeah.
So the Ministry of Agriculture have to take the lead. The Nutmeg Association, based upon the law, you can export nutmeg out of them. So they have to champion the nutmeg story. The Cocoa Association have to champion the cocoa story.
Yeah.
Most of the farmers in our country are three crop farmers, but the other citrus are minor. Cocoa and nutmeg is the major. So once these two commodity both, that you call them, nutmeg and cocoa, and government, we practically cover the whole story. We have to stop, beat around the bush and tell the government, you responsible. We have to tell Nutmeg Association, you responsible.
Okay.
Joshua, let me give you an example. Kenko, they came here quite a few years ago, and they were in Grenada, I think 2 or 3 years before anything happened. They actually had people looking to identify farmers to grow sugarcane for them. They had no intention of growing sugarcane.
Remember, I was involved in
You
the
was
process.
involved in the whole process. And I was like, what it is you people doing? I was actually on my farm, and by my home, and I see this vehicle show up, and the guys them last, they're looking for a road, and they end up in my house. And they started telling me about this project, and they wanted to go to Shambo and end up in my home. And I said, hang on, this not going to work. You would have to plant the cane yourself. And PJ, where are we going to find the lands to do that? And I said, oh, you mean we're going to find the lands? The same lands that you're trying to target from the farmers. Ask the farmers to rent the land for you. And you can plant the cane. Anyway, a few months after they came back and said, BJ, can you do this for us? And I said, hang on, this is not difficult to do. I can do this for your people. A few, maybe about $1 million, and we can sort this out when I do the overall calculation. They put up $1.5 million, and Joshua, within 12 months or so, 15 months, we cultivated 300 acres of cane. Not land that was cultivated already, lands that was abandoned. The point I'm making, Joshua, there are lands in Grenada, lots of lands still, arable lands that we can use to develop projects, lands that we can, resuscitate and get them, productive. And it is not a difficult thing to do. If you make the resources available, if you make the lands available, then we can grow the crop for you. It is not difficult to do. But when you don't want to put your money where your mouth is, what do you expect? You just want to tack it and you expect people to go and do it. It's not going to happen, Joshua. Agriculture is risky business, as you notice. One hurricane and you have to go and start all over again.
Yeah.
And, it's high risk business. That don't necessarily mean that you have to, drop dead when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
You build back and you build back better. You'll
Mm-hmm.
be more resilient in what you learn from your mistake and you move
Mm-hmm.
along.
Yeah. Yeah, BJ, I remember those early days, but listening to you again, what came to mind was that we don't have to go and get some kind of foreign expert, foreign consultant to do it. What people have just heard is that a local Grenadian telling you his experience of actually doing it. And what happens quite often, something that I notice, because the person is in front of you and he's talking so easy about the mammoth task that he's achieved, it's almost as though it's dismissed. So I'm sitting here listening, thinking, but what has been achieved is a monumental task. And what BJ is saying, he can replicate it again. And when I say he can, often, the way things are done, it's done with a team. But we have the expertise. It's been done before, and certainly it can be done again. You just tailor it slightly different in terms of that. So I'm inspired by that, and I want to inspire you guys as well, because yesterday I put down 22 trays of tomatoes, 10 trays of seasoning peppers. So
That's good.
for a man who has no agricultural background, I felt quite proud. And I didn't do it myself. I mean, I had a couple of guys helping me.
How you
So
gonna get the background if you don't do it?
yeah,
Because you grew up on agriculture, but can you stay in the back of the, according to BJ, you go in the back of the
Well,
church. Your name has always been. I
associated with
understand you
that.
was out of the limelight for a very long time.
uh-huh.
But I believe
Mm,
on the question that we are asking, what is the recovery plan for agriculture
mhm,
post Beryl?
mhm,
Obviously, the government may be making a plan. Perhaps Nutmeg Association making the plan.
mhm,
Maybe Cocoa Association making the plan. They don't make it yet.
mhm,
So maybe we could encourage individual farmers.
mhm,
Wake up, seek help,
mhm.
and make a plan.
Yeah. Well, we've had 4 months gone already since
A
Beryl,
lot
have
of
we?
months.
But yeah, probably they are, and I hope they are. I'm an optimist
Yeah,
because
of course, government working on a plan. It may take a couple more years, but you never know.
no, 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 no,
Nutmeg Association and Cocoa working on a plan.
no, no,
But
no,
in all fairness, we cannot forget individual farmers
no, no, no,
and
no.
perhaps encourage them.
6 months. We should have.
Joshua, the guys them, all right? The guys them talking the talk,
Mhm.
but in the walk in the walk.
Yeah.
We want to resuscitate the nutmeg industry.
Mhm.
How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
The how, Joshua,
Yeah.
is where the guys can get in stock.
Yeah.
I am saying that, Joshua, you had what? How much million they say they had? Over 10 million to give to the farmers.
Mhm.
All right. Still, Joshua, there are farmers who would have had damages and
You get a sentence.
they don't even get a cent yet.
Mhm.
What it tells me is that you have no urgency with regard to dealing with that. You don't understand the importance of it. Um, that's the reason why you're not behaving in with any urgency. And I'm saying that, Joshua, when you give people, when you show that kind of notion, whereby you act like you don't care,
Mhm.
what message are you really sending? With all these people you have are paying what, 20, $30 million in wages and salary,
Mhm.
public servants every month, and
Mhm.
are you telling me that to distribute a few $1 million to farmers,
Mhm.
it taking
It's
you
so
that long?
difficult.
It's so difficult to do.
Mhm.
Something wrong with you mentally.
Mhm.
Something wrong with your operation. Something wrong with your system. Joshua, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, can't remember. The Japanese government, the government of Japan, the Japanese government,
Yeah.
they give us $1 million to help farmers. All
Mhm.
right, just to as a boost
Mhm.
to the agriculture sector. So farmers who want a little spring can, who want a few bags of fertilizer, who
Mhm.
want small things can get it.
Mhm.
And you know what happened, Joshua?
Mhm.
Hmm? To distribute $1 million. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It took the ministry, all right, a year plus to distribute $1 million. And in terms of the administrative costs, after they finish, that would have taken up about $300,000-400,000. So
Yeah.
the farmers would have gotten what
600,000,
600,000.
if lucky.
Joshua, that is mad people thing.
Mm-hmm.
This could have been done in 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and it take the people a year and a half
Yeah.
to get it done, and they had to push them to get it done. And you know what is strange? The person who run that project, he was recommended that to go to another country to implement that same a similar project because he did very well, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But one of the things we fight against all the time, and it's the invisible. You see, our colonial past have given us division amongst ourselves, and it's also embedded in us a distrust of each other, and that often is in people's psyche where Grenadians, not only Grenadians, a lot of Caribbean don't like to see their fellow Caribbean people getting help and support and developing. And it's something that's in a lot of psyche, not everybody's psyche, but it's something that we have to discard and be aware of it when it raises its head. It's almost as though what I hear is, okay, you can trust me, but you can't trust any of the rest. And we treat each other as though they're thieves or they're villains. And that kind of mentality has to be chased out of our society.
Just before because we're running out of time, and that's
Yeah.
what happened on this agriculture program.
Yeah.
We're not taking a year, but we run out of time. The source up industry in Grenada
Mm-hmm.
is one industry we believe that needs some attention
Yeah.
because we have a ready market for source up.
Mm-hmm.
Government, Grenada is the only country in the region, I believe, that can export fresh source up to the US market. Marketing board in years gone by sacrifice 100,000 tons or pounds of sauce up to convince the American to give us that privilege we have. Government has not met with the source of exporters up to today.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, what is the plan for source up after?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a number of people go in the source up,
And there's
and
a
and
few
this
exporters.
and
Yeah.
a very few exporters.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to harvest because the exporters go and harvest for themselves, and they give them $2.50 or $3,
It's
and they
$4.
seems to be satisfied. But the husbandry practice, if we improve our husbandry practice, the very tree could increase by perhaps 800-900%
Yeah.
production, because you could have pollination and
Hand.
pruning,
Yeah.
and higher the belt, more you have to threaten to kill the source up for it to be. You know, it's like some of our children. More they get food and sell, less they produce in school. So sometimes you have to make them do work, hard work, for them to do well in school.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even that,
Mm-hmm.
we cannot get the government to come up and say, okay, we go have training programs on husbandry practice, radio programs, pamphlets to farmers.
Yeah.
When?
Yeah. They do a bit with the FAO
Well, the
on
bit
that.
they do, not bit enough.
Joshua, you have
Microscopic.
to centralize
Mm-hmm.
production when you're dealing with those things in them.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to target the 1-2 acres here, there, everywhere. But you need to take 2-3 estates in Grenada and seriously plant it in Source if you're serious about those things.
Yeah.
Just like how Kane could target 300 acres of land, you need to target
100 acres of sauce.
300 acres of Source.
Yeah.
Here you are now, Kane could give up those lands more or less. Shouldn't the government team up with private individuals and decide, hang on, let me plant up those areas in Source?
Okay.
Joshua, not just that. You have that the source of industry. All right. It need to be treated as an industry. You cannot be leave it on left it on its own and say, hang on, you know something? This mango plant that and that mango plant.
Yeah.
Where is it? Joshua, as a government, how much acres do they want to plant up this year?
Yeah. Oh, that is all part of the plan, but I want to focus us. I want each of us to kind of have a closing remark because time is almost out.
So let we close.
Yeah, on us. So
Go ahead.
yeah. Well, I'll go first. Hopefully, we've started to raise that awareness and discussion, and we have to have a little bit of disagreement as well. So we weren't able to, cover the full range of agriculture. One of the things I've been working on all week is understanding bees and pollination, and we didn't even touch on that today. But what we're trying to do is to raise that consensus and support for our recovery plan. What we don't want to do is to allow us to drift by without a plan. So, if we manage to just get a plan in people's kind of head, I think we're doing well. BJ?
Joshua, what I would like to see is that the agriculture sector become a sustainable sector.
Mm-hmm.
And that don't involve when we have a hurricane, the government go and buy, you know, 500 bag of chicken feed and whatever and say we're distributing and for publicity and those kind of things.
Sustainable.
We are talking about sustainable development.
Mm-hmm.
Farmers are able to buy the feed. Farmers are able to produce the crop at a profit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that do require, rocket science. The support mechanism need to be there sometime, Joshua,
Mm-hmm.
because before people walk, sometimes they have to creep, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the hand need to be held,
Mhm.
and that's where the government comes in.
Yeah.
And you're not beating up on them. You're saying, "Hang on, you people are acting too insensitive when it comes to developing the agriculture sector. It need to be treated differently." Why do you think some countries subsidize the agriculture, Joshua? They subsidize it, Joshua, to make food affordable.
Yes.
And why do you think food, vegetables and stuff are so expensive in Grenada?
No
Because
subsidy.
we have no subsidy. Everything you have to buy. What do you expect? And you have no control over the inputs. What do you expect? You're asking for trouble, Joshua.
All right.
What we try to do on this program is to provoke discussion. And sometimes when you hear discussion, obviously you can't do much justice to it with the time. But we do hope people discuss these issues. Farmers. We're not afraid to blame the government or give the government responsibility. The government is the biggest farmer in Grenada. And you have to stop just believing you is the biggest farmer and show us you is the biggest farmer. You are the biggest teacher. You is the model. You want other farmers come to your farm to see how to do what to do. The Cocoa Association need to come up and tell us what to do, how to do it, what new technique. Nutmeg Association, you must tell us if it's to plant back nutmeg. Tell us if it's to plant back. Yes, plant back. What this distance? We're going to produce the plant, the husbandry practice. And we have to do that. We can't afford not to do it. And you too have to subscribe to Studio Galaxy. Like we program. Tell your partner to subscribe to Studio Galaxy. Every Saturday we have this agriculture program. And thank you, Joshua and BG, and our technical operator, Elisa.
Welcome. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you.